Death doesn't take a break. Fade in. Exterior. Cornfield. Day. Death struggles through a field of corn on a sunny afternoon. Every stalk he touches with his hands withers and bends like a burning match. He emerges on the other side covered in hairy seeds, decorating his black cloak in an adornment of white snowflakes. He has sharp cheekbones and thin white stained lips that peel into a grimace. Death lifts his gnarled hands to crack his knuckles. His skin is paler than the white corn. His every vein stands out as a complicated road map on his flesh. His gray eyes rest upon a farmhouse. It is narrow but tall. There are far too many windows on the front to be considered useful. Every single one glints in the healthy sunlight. Exterior farmhouse. Day. A farmer chops wood outside. He coughs into his hands, which are already stained red with his blood. He sweats profusely and his clothes hang loosely from his thin frame. He notices Death and shades his brow with his hands. He does not move. He only stands there with his axe. Death lifts his hands as if to wave, but leaves them at chest level. They reach out toward the farmer as he walks closer. He starts to pick up his pace. The farmer suddenly lifts his axe and swings it wildly to fend off the man in black. Death pauses a few feet away, his hands still upraised. The farmer backs away slowly, and he brandishes his weapon. Death remains where he is. He waits for the man to turn around to run before chasing after him. And when he gets his chance, he trips over a pile of wood and sprawls out onto his chest. He cranes his neck and watches as the farmer retreats into the corn. Death's eyes grow red and the corn immediately catches fire. The farmer coughs and screams for help. Death stands up and brushes himself off. He smiles. Then the farmer fumbles out of the crop, his jacket alight. He runs into the farmhouse and there are loud bangs and clangs from inside. A woman screams, followed by a dog bark and a baby's cry. Death walks up to the window and sees that the kitchen is on fire. A gas lamp in the corner explodes and the windows blow out in a spray of glass. Death cowers against the side of the house, while stacks of smoke lick out into the air. He hears a voice and looks up. A woman with a blue bonnet pokes her head out of the upstairs window. She coughs and sputters through her tears. She spots Death and yells down at him. She disappears and reappears with a baby in her arms. She holds him out as if to drop him. Death shakes his head and holds out his palms to stop her. She pleads, her face full of tears. Death looks at his naked hands and then back up at the woman. He holds up one finger and sprints away into a nearby tool shed. Interior, tool shed, day. He bursts inside and rips through the cabinets. He finds a pair of gardening gloves on the wall and straps them on. Exterior farmhouse, day. Back outside, the house is already charred black on one side. Smoke consumes the sky. Part of the roof is caved in. The woman is still half in and out of the window, and her baby screams. She appears drowsy, as though she could easily fall out of the window, baby and all. Death calls for her, and she gratefully drops the baby into his arms. He takes the baby to a wheelbarrow and returns to the foot of her window. He motions for her to jump, but she holds up a large dog instead. He shakes his head, but she drops the animal anyway. It lands on his back, and they hit the grass together. The dog bites into his arms and makes its way up to his shoulder. Death screams and attempts to push the dog away. The dog grabs a good piece of his cloak and rips it to tatters. Now Death's gangly legs are completely naked. They kick in the grass. Finally, Death sucks in a lungful of air, and with his eyes a deep red, he summons the loudest, unholy bark that he can muster, his yellow teeth bared. Without a moment's hesitation, the dog takes off into the fiery corn, its head low. It does not look back. Death stands up, tattered, his arm covered in blood and his breath ragged. He looks up and the woman is gone. What has replaced her is a tongue of fire, licking at the underside of the roof. She appears in another window, and she is in the process of climbing out of it. Death runs to catch her, but realizes that the dog had torn off one of his gloves. His ghost face retracts back into his skull and his eyes pop. He scrambles in the grass on his hands and knees to find it, but there is nothing. The woman is on the windowsill, just ready to scoot off. Again he motions for her to wait, as he sprints back to the shed. The fire has now ravaged the shed into a hothouse. He puts his hood up and ducks into the bright inferno. He returns with his skin blackened with soot and his clothing reduced to smoking rags. He has a large ladder tucked under one of his arms. He props it up against the side of the house and allows for the woman to climb down. Once safely on the ground, she tries to hug him, but he pulls away, his hands behind his back. She thanks him before going to check on her baby. Death stands in place for a long moment as the house collapses in a final spray of ash and cinders. Now there is a perfect view of the field as it burns. There is a loud click. The farmer is standing behind him with a 2-barrel shotgun. He is very badly burned, and his clothes hang off him in charred strands. He scowls and fires. With super speed, Death ducks low on his hands and knees. He crawls toward the farmer like a determined spider. Death bounds to his feet and snags the weapon from the farmer's hands. The farmer falls onto his back and cowers into a ball. Death tosses the gun aside and stands over the man. He wears no expression whatsoever. His naked hand unclenches and reaches out to touch the farmer's brow. Then he stops and turns around. The woman and her baby are only a few feet away. She is frozen. The baby clings tight around her neck. He turns back and his jaw drops in slow motion. His sponge-like tongue shrivels away into his throat. The farmer has reclaimed his shotgun and has it aimed to blow Death's head off his shoulders. Just as the farmer fires, Death fades into nothing. The woman's bonnet flies off her head and lands in the grass. A large bullet hole has tagged the fabric. Exterior forest, day. Death materializes amid a group of trees and he sits on his heels against a tree trunk. His arms hang between his knees. He exhales and closes his eyes. A long bead of sweat begins to crawl down the curves of his face as he wipes it away with the back of his hand. He crumples to the earth in a lifeless heap. Fade out.